Welcome to Confluence Conversations, the podcast where we bring together voices that are driving transformation in education and community. I'm your host, Haley Bruick, and today's episode is an inspiring look at how one organization is creating meaningful changes for students around St. Louis. We're shining a light on the Little Bit Foundation, an organization that partners directly with schools to remove obstacles to learning and create lasting impact. Their mission is deeply rooted in the belief that every child deserves the opportunity to succeed, no matter their circumstances. I'm honored to welcome today's guest, Miranda Walker Jones, President and CEO of the Little Bit Foundation. Miranda has dedicated her life to serving youth and communities, and she leads with vision, compassion, and a fierce commitment to equity. Miranda, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Let's start off. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to this leadership role in the Little Bit Foundation.
Well, how far you want me to go back? So I'm from East St. Louis, Illinois, and I think that's where my story starts. Is that when you grow up in an area that is social economically drained and in distress, but you have such a great village and a great community. I think that's what creates this, what we call the city of champions, and people that just really are able to just bust out of whatever they're doing. So if it's Jackie Joyner and she's an amazing athlete, or if there's, musicians, we've had great ones like Miles Davis. I think that everyone who comes from that community just has this ambition and this drive to do good and great things. And so I think that's where the story starts, by way of Brooklyn, Illinois, honestly. So I'm truly rooted in being an East Side girl, and went, to high school and college, was very active at Mizzou, very active in doing student advocacy, Legion of Black Collegians, all those things. And it led me to kind of my first real job was with the St. Louis Rams in community and public relations. So working in public relations and community relations with the Rams, had an opportunity to touch all kind of nonprofits and do all kind of great stuff with football players all over the city of St. Louis. And it really invigorated my passion for nonprofit work and for work in the community. From there, I had several other jobs. I worked for St. Louis 2004 and ended up at a company called Better Family Life, which I was there for 17 years as their Director of Youth and Family Services, and became their COO, and took a break from that and kind of went into politics. And I was like, wait a minute, this may not be the off-road, because I started working as the first congressional district director under Cori Bush. And it was very interesting. I think my first day of work was the day before January 6th. So I was actually in the Capitol the day before everything happened. And then I was like, okay, this is the job for the first year. I was like, so it was crazy. So you're going through, kind of that upheaval with the government and COVID and all these things on top. And I think that we thought that you'd be able to make a bigger impression on the community in that kind of role. But there are so many barriers and the bureaucracy that I found myself coming back to nonprofit, because that's where I felt like you had the most boots on the ground. Education for me is so important. I've been on a school board now for 21 years in the school district of Jennings, and I've been able to see education evolve throughout the years, and really as a role as a board member, especially in that district. I call it kind of a lighthouse district, because when all the other districts around us were having issues with accreditation, we were able to really focus in and still, have, even today, have pretty good accreditation. So again, now you have education, you have politics, nonprofit, and then here comes the Little Bit Foundation. And it's kind of the best blend of all of the things that I love, all the things that mean something to me, and being able to focus them in on kids and community. This was probably a dream job for me, because it blends all of my skills to be able to give back to the community in a really meaningful way.
It sounds like the missing link. Tell me a little bit about the Little Bit Foundation and their mission.
Well, the Little Bit Foundation is going on 24 years old, and it started as a grassroots organization. There was a woman named Rose Henley and Elise Tierney, and they started off as a coat drive. They had their soccer team had a coat drive. And when they got into the schools, they just didn't realize the enormity of the need and how much there was, just what poverty looked like. They really didn't have an idea. And so they started a grassroots movement to get coats and stuff into schools. that grew into literacy. So then they said, hey, we want to get more kids reading, so let's help them bring their, grow their home library. So they started doing book fairs. So that was kind of the origin of the Little Bit Foundation, was really coats and book bags and books. And so after the first 10, 15 years, as education is evolving, as the needs have changed, there was this need for a Little Bit to be Little Bit 2.0, to not take as much of a downstream approach, like we're waiting for the kid that doesn't have the coat. And yes, the literacy thing is more upstream, but what do we do that stops kids from needing to get a coat from the Little Bit Foundation? What changes the trajectory of families' lives by way of, that changes the trajectory of kids' lives? So, I started about 3.5 years ago with the intent of really diving into this whole child model, that we started really looking at not just the essentials, which are the coats, the hats, the shoes, which we are, we have a whole distribution center. We do that really well, but really college career readiness, health and nutrition, looking at family support, case management, looking at academic supports. How do we do this in a whole child model and make sure that we're, hitting all the children's lives exactly where they need to be? So that was kind of the evolution of Little Bit and going into this organization. And it was a missing link for me, right? Because again, you have to do all the things. It's nonprofit management. It's the political side of making sure you're able to talk to all the different school districts and the leaders to get what you need. And then it's education. It's working with kids. So it goes right to my heart and to my passion. And, I can't tell you how much, watching Little Bit evolve and grow, even from when I started. We were in 42 schools. We're now in 54 schools. We serve several different school districts. We love our Confluence schools. Confluence Old North, that's one of, Confluence Old North, they are something else. I'm telling you, they show up and they show out every time. We're excited about growing our services into Confluence South. We working with, again, a lot of the different, from charter schools to public schools. Obviously we're serving even 20 schools in St. Louis Public Schools, all of Riverview Gardens. We're as far south as Hancock Place. So it really gives us the opportunity to serve. We serve about 17,000 kids in the St. Louis metropolitan area.
So how does that work? How do you serve them? I mean, I know you have the partnership with the schools. Then what? How does that work?
So we get this partnership with the schools. That's the okay. You can come in here. So it starts with essentials. In most of the schools, we have what's called a boutique. So we know that kids come to school, and if you are hungry, if you are cold, all of those things, if your essentials are not met, that hierarchy of need, it is really hard to focus in on education. And that is our mission, is to eliminate the barriers to education. So we start there. We start with making sure they have coats and shoes and hats. And it's almost like Amazon for kids. So there is a ordering system where we have liaisons at each one of the schools. They can put an order in, and we fill that order in our warehouse. And then we have a project coordinator that comes back. We bring the clothes. We have volunteers. We don't just bring them and drop them off. Like Amazon will drop that off at a door, even if the house is not there. They're dropping it off. We actually come into the schools. We try it on with the kids. We make sure it fits. We even have a team of seamstress back at the office. If it doesn't quite fit right, we try to hem up those pants and sew it up. But that's the bread rock, making sure they have the tangibles, hygiene items, backpacks, coat, shoes, uniforms, all of those things. But then when you look at our whole child model, the next piece of it is academic enrichment. So with that, we talked about books a little bit earlier, making sure kids have home libraries or access to books. So we make sure that all of our schools get book fairs every year, kind of like the Scholastic book fairs where, they go and order the books, but these are free. So you get 2 free books in the spring, 2 free books in the fall. We make sure that they're leveled by their reading levels. We have people that'll come in and read with the kids while they're doing the book fair. So now, we have 17,000 kids, which means if everybody's getting 4 books, that's a lot of books in the warehouse. So we are doing books all day, every day. And then we work with our youngest readers. We have a program called Books and Buddies. So we know that if you have someone or something to read to, it increases your literacy rate. So we match up our books with a little buddy, a stuffed animal that gives them a friend and matches the book, and they're able to read to their buddy and, kind of make that their reading buddy. So we do that. A lot of other things in the literacy. We have so many partners that work with us on our literacy. And then we do a lot of STEM programs. So we have we have 7 Lego teams right now, 7 robotics teams, all in the Riverview Garden School District, but they compete against each other, and then they compete against SLPS. So they are growing by leaps and bounds with the robotics. And then we do a program called STEM Lingo, which is for our middle and high school babies. I call them babies respectively. If any high school students out there, I don't want you to, get mad at me for saying babies.
Term of endearment.
Yes, I have a 17-year-old at home, so he's still my baby. But those young people are able to learn coding within about 4 days. So it's a project that was brought to us by Aisha Bowe, who owns this company called STEMboard. She actually just went up into space with the Blue Origin. So if y'all saw the all-female crew that went up, she was the engineer that was she's actually an astronaut. So I say they all went with her because if anything went wrong, she was the one that was going to have to fix it while they were up there. So she is a great friend to our organization. So she helps to provide these STEM Lingo kits that we go in and we do the classes with them. They start off like, what are all these wires in these boxes? What are we coding? It syncs into their computer, and we're teaching them some basic coding. And by the end of the week, they're able to we programmed a backup camera, and we programmed how to make music. And now we are launching a new STEM module, a science module, space, obviously, to go with Aisha going into space. So we have a space module that they'll learn how to code, simulating a launching into space, and they'll be able to code using a satellite and how you can use the satellite to look at Earth. So those are our 2 newest modules. And a lot of this is inspired by the geospatial boom that's happening in St. Louis. Our goal is to make St. Louis the geospatial capital of the world, especially with NGA and everything coming here. So we want to make sure that kids are ready for jobs that St. Louis has to offer. And when NGA came in, they were like, oh my gosh, in order for kids to get clearance, they have to they have to be straight and narrow. They can't have anything on their record and think that they're going to get security clearance. So it's about making sure that we're attending to their character and making them understand the importance of doing the right things, but also they have the skill and desire to get into some of these geospatial STEM careers. And so that goes right into our next thing, which is college and career readiness. So we are able to do, we do 2 big things at the beginning of the year. We call them What's Next fairs. They're 2 big career fairs. We have about 50 vendors. We have kids that come from about 18 different high schools and some middle schools. We did one at Harris-Stowe. We did one at St. Louis Community College, Florissant Valley. And they get to come out for a day and just talk to people who are in radio or talk to people that are in banking or in construction and just kind of getting a feel for what's next. That starts off our year. We do something called transferable skills seminars where it's kind of like a TED Talk for kids. We have a live person at a school, but we're broadcasting it out to about 15 other schools, and they're asking questions. It's really interactive. We've had people from Maryville talk about Dress for Success, or we've had Dr. Candace Cox, who is a psychologist here that talks about adverse, child behaviors and, depression and what that means for people. I mean, all kind of stuff on these transferable skills seminars. So with college career readiness, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We have mock interviews. We do, application day at the end of the year where we do smaller fairs where people are actually filling out applications for jobs, but also for other organizations like CyberUp or Access. So we try to bring the programs to the kids so they know what all those different resources are. So that's college career readiness. Then our next program is health and nutrition. And that was a big pivot during the pandemic when everybody realized that there are a lot more food insecure people than people really realized. And so we started off just doing a Project Hope where we were working with 75 families, getting them boxes of food. And we've evolved with our partners, the St. Louis Area Food Bank. We actually have 11 in-school markets where we've taken a classroom and turned it into a market in some of our most vulnerable areas that are considered food deserts. So people can come in from the community or at the school, even teachers, counselors, and get eggs, cheese, butter, milk, canned goods, all those shelf-stable items for absolutely free. So we have those markets that we do once a week. We also work with Operation Food Search, and we do what's called Sonny's Food Closet Bags, and that's kind of like Operation Backpack where we have shelf-stable food that kids can take home for the weekend. So we do about 2,000 bags every 2 weeks, so there's a lot that's going into health and nutrition. In the markets, we work with UMSL where we have what do we do with the food that's that's in the market? We have recipes, healthy recipe tips. So again, we have a bunch of partners that we work with. And I think the last part of the wheel, because we have 5 areas, would be family support and wellness. And what happened after the pandemic, we went to the schools and said, well, what do you need? We're doing all these things, but what do you need? And they said, we need boots on the ground. We have counselors, but a lot of times because there's a teacher shortage, they're doing lunch duty, they're doing, teaching a class for a sub, because we just don't have enough adults in the building that are able to actually take that upstream approach, find out what's going on in the home. Does mom have a job? Do they have transportation? Are they homeless? Are they in a transition? What is happening to that family that is causing the kids to have some of the issues that they may be having, that they need coats or they need book bags? So we started writing some grants, and we were able to have a case management department. So we now have 2 case managers. One is also a licensed clinician. And we also work with 2 other clinical programs. They are licensed clinicians as well. So we're able to make behavioral health referrals for, more behavioral health and people that need more in-depth counseling. But we're now doing case management for about 300 families right now.
It's incredible. That's
the work.
Yeah, that is incredible. I mean, and all-encompassing. And you call you name your companies the Little Bit Foundation. There's nothing little bit about that.
And I love when people say that, because it's like we're little and unassuming, but we're able to just do the work, and without all of the pomp and circumstance, we get in where we fit in. And our goal, and I tell you, we have the best team, in my opinion, in the state of Missouri, because we have passionate people that really care about kids. I mean, our Lego team, she's over our Lego team. She's our STEM coordinator. It's not just about the Lego competition. She made them all little personalized water bottles and put their names on it and made sure she baked cookies for them. She's probably been to more 5th grade graduations this year than I can even throw a stick at. But she cares so much. And that goes from our STEM coordinator to our literacy coordinator, the managers that are involved. I'll tell you, our college career readiness director, William Hardrick, is out. It doesn't have to be what's next for her. They call him to the school to talk to a kid because they know when we're going to call Mr. Will, because they know that the people that work at Little Bit Foundation are serious about our job, serious about making sure that our kids have what they need.
So with all that, what challenges do you face? What stops that? What gets in the way?
Ooh, I mean, it's a lot of challenges right now, right? So,
financial probably at the top of the list.
All of the different things. I mean, yes, the more resources, the more we can do. And we know that there are a lot more people there are a lot less people giving than there were years ago. And that's because of, all the instability happening right now, from things of tariffs to all these other things. I mean, politics aside, it's just a really uncertain time, and that slows down giving sometimes. The other thing is volunteers. What we do, we cannot do by ourselves. We are a team of about 36, but we are serving 17,000 kids. So we are really based on having volunteers in place. Volunteers that work in our warehouse, they help fill those orders. We have volunteers that I think are employees. They come every week like clockwork and make sure those orders are filled. But then we also have volunteers that go into school. So we try to have 2 school reps for every school. We're in 54 schools. That means we need 108 reps. We probably have about 40 reps consistently, and some of them go to 2 schools. But we need those people that can be dedicated to going to a school, that have all the things, the training, the background checks, that they become a part of that school fabric as well. So volunteers is a challenge, making sure we get them. And again, funding, making sure that people know that, donating to us is really donating to 17,000 kids. And there are just so many amazing nonprofits in the state of Missouri. And Missourians are they're very generous. They're very generous, but it's just so many places and so many holes to fill that, just hoping that people make that choice, that they want to support what we're doing.
Well, hopefully this podcast will help get the word out, because a couple of questions. I do want to see if we missed anything. But before I forget, how do people reach out to you? How do they volunteer? How do they donate?
Well, of course, we're going to drive them to the website, www.thelittlebitfoundation.org. It is the whole thing, thelittlebitfoundation.org. So you have to go there. And when you go to our website, the first thing that's going to pop up is our immediate response to the tornado, because we are deep into tornado response right now. We are in the process of checking on a lot of the students that were in the schools that were most affected. So in that area. So we're doing that work now. So there's a donation page there for that. We're asking for not only monetary donations, but people can drop off any kind of supplies and goods to our office. We're also going to open up another site at Vashon coming up here pretty soon. It'll be open by the end of this week, where people can drop off, and families, again, primarily those at the schools that were affected, but it's not just St. Louis Public Schools, it's any of the schools. So if it's Confluence or any other school that was affected, those are the families that we want to see come there and get that resource. But on our website, again, there's a volunteer page. You want to volunteer. We'll even do a tour. Come out, just take the tour, come hear what we have to do. We have all kind of different groups. We have a young professional group. We have young friends. So every other month we have a happy hour for people to come out and hear what we do. So there's just a lot of entry points for volunteerism. And then, of course, donations. You can always make a donation on that page. We're on all the social media. So Facebook, I'm old school, so I'm on Facebook. I probably would be on, what's that, MySpace, if they didn't probably get rid of that.
I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, old school, right. Y'all even know some people in the room. Do y'all even know what MySpace is? Look, you have MySpace. Okay,
so
we
had a couple.
Old school.
Not just us.
But, but we're on Instagram. We know that more people on Instagram.
TikTok.
TikTok. I don't know if we have a TikTok account. If we do, I've never been there because I'm like a little bit older, and TikTok for me was
I will tell you, that's where the high schoolers are. They're scrolling through their TikTok. So,
and what's the other one they're on?
Snapchat.
Yeah, Snapchat. I'm like, doesn't that go away in it though? So what's the point? If you don't get on there right away, we're not going to. But I've had my daughter. I have teenagers. I take a breath. I have a 21-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And I've seen my daughter, who had her friends in the back, like Snapchatting her friends. They're in the back seat. And I'm like, what the heck? She's right there. Just talk to her. So sorry. We're off topic.
We digress a little. We had a rule in our house.
Kids,
if you're
right?
In the house, no texting, like within the house. But
they will text each other in the next room. But I love my babies, and having teenagers. Or teenagers and a preteen, I guess they're kind of aging out, the love that I have for them, they know that we have, 17,000 extended children. They know that. They know that mom is serious about their work, and they volunteer a lot. So my daughter actually does she wants to be a teacher, so she does some part-time work at the office, and my son does his volunteer work there, as do most of what we call our little bit babies. They are always at the office giving back because they're really into what we are doing as a team.
Oh, you don't have any age restrictions, because we can put all this information on the show notes so people can reach out to you. Students, high school who want to or students who want services and or volunteer.
We have ton of high school students that come in to get their service hours. It's a great place to come and get those service hours in the warehouse. There's music playing back there. It's fun. You're helping us to fill orders for other students. So that is a great way for them to reach out. We try to do service probably maybe 10, 11, because when they get a little bit younger, we do have projects for younger kids, but those are more supervised projects. So they may be putting together school supplies and stuff like that, but we'll do that as a group. We do groups. So if a group wants to come from a business, we have a coordinator, our volunteer coordinator. His name is Brian Walker. He will set up your group to come so you can volunteer together, or groups of students can come together.
Or like teams or something. I know my boys' teams, used to volunteer as a team.
Absolutely. We had a bunch of Boy Scouts in the warehouse the other day, and they were younger. They were like 8 or 9. I was like, oh, okay, the Boy Scouts are here. I heard them all the way down. So, we love to have all age groups. And we have a group of retired teachers that come in every week. Our Flamingo ladies, our Thursday crew, our kindness crew. So a lot of seniors come and volunteer. So it is a wide range of ages. And I will note that we just moved into our new location in the last 6 months. We're in Maryland Heights in a warehouse there. We experienced a flood in 2022 and lost everything, and we're able to rebound. Again, back to the generosity of the St. Louis region. They supported us when we needed them the most. We had businesses that were like, here's a donation, and can we give you donating furniture, all the things. We were in a temporary office for 2 years. So we're just enjoying our first almost 6 months in our new building. And so, when this tornado happened, the other day, we are no stranger to disaster, no stranger to what it feels like when you lose everything from a business standpoint, not from a home standpoint. That's a whole different level. But we know that our response, that we had to do something to give back to a community that gives so much to us and during our time of need, which is why, we are really serious and committed to doing everything that we can to help with people that were victims of the tornado.
What are you specifically doing?
So again, as soon as you go to our website, it's going to pop up.
I was going to say
donations,
that too.
Donations, monetary,
yep.
and as well as opening up this resource center. And we're committed to going through a list of every single kid in conjunction with the school systems that was affected and making sure that they know that we have resources here for them.
Gotcha. All right. What did we forget? What else that was very thorough, but did we miss anything? Anything important? Message to the audience, to the viewer.
Oh, I don't think so. I felt like you didn't ask a lot of questions. I just was talking.
I didn't have to. It was perfect.
Talk.
No.
But, I
took us through your wheel and everything.
Yes.
So.
I just think that, our kids are our future. Our youth are our future. And there's a saying that goes, if you want to know how the village is, you ask, are the kids well? And so many times, especially when you're talking about kids and communities in poverty, the ones that have it the hardest are children. And our goal is to support them in any way we can, because that's our future. And we need to give them what they need so that they can get what they need education-wise, so that they can come back and get those jobs that St. Louis has to offer. This is about building our workforce, building our future, and keeping our community sound. So it's the immediate effect of giving kids new shoes, but it's the long-term effect of giving them what they need so they can come back and be our workforce of the future. And somebody got to roll us when we're in the wheelchairs, right? Somebody got to take care of us. And if we're not doing it, if we're not making that investment, it's an investment that we make now that turns out for the future. I think that's the most important thing. And you can invest time in being a volunteer. You can invest money. I'll take $5, 50 cents, whatever it is, that's an investment, because that just continues to grow and grow and grow. And again, nothing's too small. We are the Little Bit Foundation, so nothing's too little. And but hopefully it'll make a long-lasting impact.
I can't imagine that it won't. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully we can get that word out and bring people to your website so they can volunteer, donate, and help the community.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, Confluence, for having us.
Well, Miranda, that wraps up this episode of Confluence Conversations. Viewers, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. And you can subscribe by clicking the link below. And you can find out more about the Little Bit Foundation by checking in the show notes and donating and contributing how you can. Have a great day.